Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego State's history-making March Madness run is giving fans reason to believe. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The men's basketball team is headed to the Final Four of the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. And even though it's spring break, KPBS reporter Melissa May found a lot of excitement on campus.
For the first time in school history, San Diego State is going to the Final Four.
Fantastic. The team is trying so hard to do so well, and they are showing it.
Go Aztec. Aztec for life. I mean, so excited. Can't wait to cheer them on.
The San Diego State men's basketball team will be heading to Houston for the Final Four, and Aztec pride can be felt all around the campus. From the school store to campus tours, people are excited.
I was at work while they were playing, so room watching it, and I was so excited when they won. It was just, I was screaming, jumping up and down, and I was wearing my SDSU gear, and I was high-fiving customers I was helping, so it was very fun.
Sophomore Jenna Kloon is also an SDSU campus tour guide.
Just having a team in the university where I attend be making it all the way is crazy, and I saw Gavin Newsom tweeted about SDSU, and it's just absolutely insane that people are like checking us out and like actually know about SDSU, and especially our basketball team.
Sophomore Bella Espinoza plays for the SDSU softball team and could hear fans cheering for the men's basketball team during their game on Sunday.
Everyone is so excited. We were obviously bummed we couldn't watch the game because we were playing, but everyone was so excited, and I think it honestly brought a lot of energy to all the athletes. I think it was just awesome. Like, I was stoked to hear about it and just bringing like more awareness to SDSU, and we can compete with other schools.
Fans are already pre-ordering their Final Four gear online, and the campus store is full of fans, including Judy Mitchell.
Everybody knows that San Diego State is a beautiful campus. We are the largest campus in the whole state system. But to have our basketball team make it nationally, that really is drawing in the attention of the great collegiate programs that we have.
As the team gets ready for their game against Florida Atlantic University this Saturday, fans want to send them off with some Aztec pride.
Thank you for all they do and for having such spirit. You know, you can see it when they're running up and down the court. There's just not a single person on the team that's just on the sidelines. Everybody's in, and it's just fantastic. They do a great job.
Baker is good.
Congrats and keep going. It's awesome, and hopefully they make it all the way.
You're amazing. Just keep doing you. You're killing it. Best of luck.
A big part of this run have been the public watch parties here at Viejas Arena. No official announcement has been made yet, but if the trend continues, you can expect these doors to be open this Saturday. From Viejas Arena, Melissa May, KPBS News.
San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is announcing he's checking into a treatment center for post-traumatic stress, trauma, and alcohol abuse. He's also decided not to run for state senate and instead focus on his health. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman talked to local experts about PTSD and how treatment can transform lives.
Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says his post-traumatic stress is from combat during his time as a Marine and also intense childhood trauma that's been made worse from alcohol abuse. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, can occur with anyone. Federal health officials say about 8 out of every 100 people will experience it at some point in their lives. It's typically triggered by traumatic events.
It could be something like combat. It could be domestic violence. It could be getting into a car accident. It could be childhood trauma, like childhood abuse.
Dr. Sarah Simmons is a psychiatrist at Kaiser San Diego. She says symptoms from PTSD can range from intrusive memories to avoidance or distancing, numbness, or even physical symptoms like feeling on edge or being irritable. She says something key to remember is that PTSD is treatable.
And sometimes it could be really difficult and painful to think about those that trauma that's happened. So sometimes it's like, okay, I just don't want to go there. I'm not ready for that kind of treatment. But the important thing to remember is that treatment it works. People can recover. They can feel whole again. They can move on with their lives.
Treatment doesn't always involve revisiting trauma, and it can include therapy, support groups, or medication. Simmons says it's common for those with PTSD to use unhealthy habits like alcohol to get temporary relief from trauma, but she cautions against that.
It's really easy for a person to think, okay, I'm going to have that glass of wine, maybe it will help. But the important thing to remember is that alcohol in itself makes it harder to treat PTSD. It makes it harder to get over those symptoms.
At the VA in San Diego, access to PTSD treatment has expanded for veterans over the last few decades.
A lot of what we hear is, I wish I'd come in sooner.
Abigail Enkow is Deputy Assistant Chief of Staff for Mental Health and a psychologist at the San Diego VA. She says PTSD is unlikely to go away on its own. She also says treatment is effective, even if it's years after a traumatic event.
There's often that question of when will I be ready for treatment? And I think if somebody is experiencing PTSD, they're a veteran and they served our country, they deserve treatment.
Family and friends can help those with post-traumatic stress by being supportive and willing to listen. Experts say a good first step for considering treatment is to reach out and speak with a therapist. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Fletcher's fellow supervisors are offering their support. Chairwoman Nora Vargas tweeted, quote, "It takes courage to seek help. Thank you, Supervisor Fletcher, for your leadership and for openly sharing your personal struggles." And Supervisor Joel Anderson offered prayers for Fletcher and his family while encouraging all San Diegans who are quietly suffering with mental health issues to seek help. The preliminary hearing was postponed today for a doctor and a nurse charged with a woman's death in jail. But Elisa Serna's family still held a rally in front of the El Cajon courthouse. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado shows us, justice advocates and others whose loved ones have died in jail were also there.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Elisa Serna's family was counting on attending the preliminary hearing for a doctor and a nurse charged with her death while in custody at Las Colinas detention facility in 2019. Instead, they stood outside with justice advocates and other families who have the same tragedy in common and together called for justice.
Justice for Elisa Serna! Justice for Elisa Serna!
The hearing was continued, and a new date was set for Dr. Frederic Van Lintig and nurse Dana Lee Pasqua. Both pleaded not guilty to involuntary manslaughter. Elisa's mom, Paloma Serna, says that delay did not deter her plans to make the two-day drive, but she's upset because it's been delayed long enough.
It's very frustrating to have it postponed because we have the evidence. The evidence is there. We've seen the evidence.
That evidence, she says, is unreleased video footage of her daughter inside the detention facility where she was being held for petty theft. She claims it shows her 24-year-old daughter's death while on medical supervision.
She was pregnant. She wasn't. There's no record of her eating, and the videos, it does not show that her ever eating. Not once was she. Every time she had a seizure, they never went in there to check on her. They just left her there.
And she says after watching the video, it's clear to her that more people must be held accountable.
Then we saw the video. It was like, so when are these other deputies going to be arrested too?
They all are human beings, and they all need justice.
Yusuf Miller, the founder of the Saving Lives in Custody campaign, says Elisa died before even having her first court hearing, and that is the case with most of the families he has unified under the campaign. He says this is a problem that is still plaguing the system that was exposed in an audit last year.
When the county audit came in on the jail deaths from the state, that highlighted the fact that in-custody deaths was so high that we're the highest in-custody death rate in the state.
We reached out to the district attorney's office and asked if more people would be charged. They said they could not comment on pending criminal cases. But Paloma says that if all stood by as her daughter died and did nothing, are not held accountable, nothing will change. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The Los Angeles Unified School District and the union representing 30,000 service workers have reached a tentative deal. However, it's not yet clear when members will vote on it. The union has promised more details during a meeting tonight. The deal follows a strike that closed California's largest school system for 3 days. It effectively means the union's demand for a 30% pay raise and includes bonus payments, retroactive pay, and fully paid health benefits. Students graduating from high school this spring can now lock in their admission to a Cal State University if they plan to start a community college. The new transfer program begins with the high school class of 2023, an agreement students can make with any of the CSU campuses, including San Diego State and Cal State San Marcos. The student gets to select a university and a major that they're interested in, and as long as they meet all of the transfer requirements within 3 years, they're guaranteed admission. There will also be a mobile app for easy access to monitor their progress and to maintain appointments with college advisors. San Diego officials celebrated the official opening of an electric vehicle charging station near the Otay Mesa border crossing. As KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson shows us, the station is designed for medium and heavy-duty trucks.
The 4 new high-powered charging stations are located conveniently at a truck stop. The California Energy Commission awarded the fueling station's owner $200,000 to install the chargers on the same property where they already fuel up diesel-powered trucks. Now, 4 fueling stations have high-speed DC chargers.
This is a wonderful step in a good direction to make sure that we're opening doors for many more other similar partnerships, that we can really focus on clean air while at the same time working to promote economic prosperity and green jobs.
Having publicly available high-speed chargers is an important step toward transitioning the trucking industry to a zero-emission future, one that state officials hope to hit by 2045.
This is an important commercial point, a transportation corridor hub for our region in San Diego and for the state of California, right? The movement of goods that exists today, and it's through these types of fast charging investments that we hope to see a lot more conversion of these fleets as those technologies become more and more available.
The California Energy Commission says there are already about 2,000 zero-emission trucks and buses on the road. An executive order also stops the sale of new internal combustion engine passenger vehicles in California after 2035. Transportation generates roughly 40% of all greenhouse gas emissions in California. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And here is something that you just don't see every day. A highway closure for routine maintenance turned into an opportunity for a bike and a pedestrian takeover. On Saturday, Caltrans closed traffic on northbound 15 between Harbor Drive and the 94, while crews work on the southbound lanes. People were invited to walk and bike the highway while helping to clean it up. It was part of the Clean California Community Days initiative.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, a school shooting kills 3 children and 3 adults at a private school in Nashville. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Members of San Diego's Belarusian community are speaking out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and they weren't the only Russian-speaking demonstrators at a rally in Balboa Park over the weekend. KPBS reporter Claire Strong has the story.
Not in our name was the message from these Belarusians who now call San Diego home. This kind of protest can land you in jail in Belarus, but Saturday's rally in Balboa Park was a chance to show the world that despite their country's close relationship with Russia, they stand firmly with Ukraine.
The white means clear heart.
Dmitry Skorobogati left Belarus 16 years ago and helped organize the event.
We don't want this war. There is half of relatives with Ukraine. Those, border territories. They're all people the same, same language, same blood. So we're against this war. It's horrible. This is San Diego.
The march, which was attended by around 40 people, also coincided with the 105th anniversary of Belarus's independence. Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko, whose re-election in 2020 sparked international outrage, has been in power for almost 30 years, making him Europe's longest-serving leader.
In 1918, our republic was first declared. The day of freedom
Saturday's event may have been organized by local Belarusians, but their Ukrainian friends also got behind the rally. Konstantin Dubovenko is originally from Kyiv. He took part in the march too and thinks it's important that Ukrainians and Belarusians stand together.
There will be next steps that happen after the war in Ukraine is done, and how those communities react, how we move forward is very important. So the sooner I think the people unite around democracy, around freedom, around Ukrainian victory, I think the better the long-term outcome is going to be.
Over the weekend, Russian President Vladimir Putin was condemned by NATO for his decision to station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, which shares a border with Ukraine. But despite the actions of his government, Skora Bogati is heartened to see that ordinary Belarusians and Ukrainians have each other's backs.
And it was so nice be together. They carry their own Ukrainian flags, we carry these Belarusian flags. We came together shoulder to shoulder. We carry our big flag, and it's very nice to be united against the evil.
Claire Strong, KPBS News.
This Friday is the federal holiday honoring the legacy of civil rights and farm workers labor leader Cesar Chavez. Since 2001, the San Diego Unified School District has sponsored Cesar Chavez service clubs involving students of all ages. And before leaving for spring break, club members known as Chavistas were part of the annual Las Mañanitas breakfast last Friday. It's an event honoring local heroes who embody values of the late labor activist. The Chavez clubs are run by students who do community service projects across the county while also developing their own leadership skills. Schools across San Diego County are on spring break this week, and the travel rush is on. The surge in demand is raising concerns as the airline industry continues to struggle with staffing shortages and in-flight incidents. Pete Montine has the latest.
Spring break travel is soaring back to normal and renewing worry that your flight could be canceled. Meltdowns plagued the FAA in January, Southwest Airlines over the holidays, and industry-wide last summer.
The air travel system is under great stress.
The Federal Aviation Administration is already warning of a shortage of air traffic controllers that could cause increased delays at New York's 3 major airports this summer. There, a key air traffic control facility is at only 54% staffing.
We're seeing it with delays. We're seeing it with cancellations, and that is leading some travelers to say, you know what, I would travel more if we could fix that air travel experience.
The latest figures from travel site Hopper show many travelers are concerned about flight disruptions. 20% of Hopper's spring break travelers are buying extra trip protection. That's on top of rising airfare, up 4%, Hopper says, compared to 2019.
They were quite pricey this time of year, I guess, due to spring break and due to what's going on in the economy.
They go up one day, they go down the next day. Just be diligent, be on point, and when you see that good price you want, hit the button.
Even still, industry figures say 158 million Americans will fly for spring break. That's an average of 2.6 million travelers each day.
We're expecting this spring break to likely break records for number of travelers who are getting out there and how much they're spending, given the huge demand coming out of the pandemic.
The top destinations: Las Vegas, Orlando, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and Miami, where the airport says demand is 20% higher than 2019. So high that officials are asking you to show up 3 hours before a domestic flight instead of the typical 2 hours.
There are very few off-peak times right now for us. We have been the best alternative to leaving the country since COVID.
More changes coming up over the course of the coming days. Still relatively quiet through Tuesday, but late Tuesday night into Wednesday, we'll start to see wet and eventually some wintry weather over the higher terrain return. And more showers and even some thunderstorms into Thursday, but then quieting down as we venture our way toward late week by Friday. And a quiet night coming up here with temperatures bottoming out into the mid-40s. 43 Oceanside, Chula Vista down to 47, Ramona 39, and Mount Laguna bottoming out down to 32, just a few clouds around. We'll take you through Futurecast starting up around 8 o'clock local time this evening. And most of the wet weather for now staying off to the north, and that'll be the case as we work our way through Tuesday additionally. But gradually we'll start to see some of those clouds seeping their way south and east along Interstate 5. So majority of the impacts Tuesday are going to be north of us, even north of Los Angeles, around San Francisco, with snow into the Sierra. Milder air off to our east. Temperature-wise, we're climbing up into the mid-60s around Chula Vista, Oceanside, 66. We're talking 68 in Ramona, Borrego Springs, 78 Mount Laguna, topping off at 46 degrees. Now, typically, for the month of March, 1.46 inches of rain. We've had quite a bit of wet weather so far this month, but notice the tendency to see lower amounts as we move into April and especially into the month of May. Well, we're talking about that's a potential for, again, a quarter, half an inch or more of rain out toward the coast as we venture our way from Wednesday into Wednesday. And I could see more of that on Thursday and even some small hail that can accompany these thunderstorms on Thursday. And then we're quieting things down Friday into the weekend. Over the interior, wet weather returning here too. Could see some locally higher amounts of rain over some of the higher foothills and even a thunderstorm on Thursday. Warming up though later on this week and into this weekend. We'll also be talking about some snow around Mount Laguna as we go again from Wednesday night into Thursday. Notice the cold air in place. We'll start to flip that around to some degree as we work our way into Saturday. Still chilly though. Clouds, sunshine, high temperature tops off at 44. And over the desert, so we're going to be following some wet weather here too. Afternoon showers Wednesday, wrapping up by Thursday afternoon, and then warming up Friday into Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick.
Outer space is infinitely huge, and it occupies a similar-sized part of our imaginations. NASA is running a competition to get kids to imagine future space missions. KPBS Aztec reporter Thomas Fudge visited a third grader in Carlsbad who is doing just that.
And this is landing. It actually has an individual thruster right here, and these will extend to help it cushion the impact.
Third grader Luca Pollock shows me some drawings he made of the journey he has planned for his spaceship Fortitude. The drawings show Fortitude landing on the ocean ice of Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. This space mission is his entry into NASA's nationwide Power to Explore essay contest. Concha Reed is deputy of NASA's Space Science Project Office based in Cleveland. She says Power to Explore challenges kids to develop a passion for science.
What we want to do is we want to engage their imagination. We want them to think big, just as we do here at NASA. So we want them to envision, if you could go anywhere in the solar system, where would you go?
Luca wants to go to Europa because he's stoked to think about its oceans and their potential for life. He said when his spaceship lands on Europa, it'll become a wheeled rover that can travel over the ice.
So it's going to drive up to one of the ice cracks and on Europa, and it's going to use a drill to cut through at least like the thinnest layer of ice as it can. It wants to be on a thinner layer, and once it does that, it opens like this little port on the belly. You can see it right here.
And through that port in the rover, out comes Luca's second vehicle, a tiny submarine that is pushed through the hole in the ice and starts swimming in the water below. It will look for signs of life and send data back to the rover, which then sends it back to Earth. He calls his submarine Resilience. The kids were told they'd be using a radioisotope power system. The same nuclear engine has powered NASA's Voyager spacecraft, which were launched in the late 70s and have now come to the very edge of the solar system. The power system has its limitations naturally, and if some space scenarios dreamed up by the kids may be technologically far-fetched by today's standards, Reed says that's okay.
We don't know what technology will be available in the future where we might be able to practically build a widget that 10 years ago, we would never have been able to. We have innovations in materials that are going on all the time. We have innovations in the IT world, in the technical world. So we're not changing the laws of physics, but we don't know what we don't know.
Luca's parents say science and technology come naturally to him. His mom remembers when he was a kid riding a carousel, he would stare up at the thing to figure out the mechanical workings of it. Now, Luca is waiting to see if he will become a finalist in the Power to Explore competition. He says advancing in the essay contest is pretty cool, and he hopes this won't be all he does for NASA.
I would love to work with NASA.
Just so that you can continue doing stuff like this?
Yes, I really also want to learn about space.
Luca's idea of a rover that will drill a hole in the ice of Jupiter's moon Europa may not take place in the near future, but Concha Reed says NASA is now planning a real-life voyage to Titan, one of the moons of Saturn. The helicopter landing craft they plan to take there is called Dragonfly. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Midday Edition on KPBS Radio has been closed for renovations for the last couple of weeks, but it returned today with some changes. It won't be just about the headlines, but the real stuff about living in San Diego. Topics are getting more time to get a good conversation going with guests. And KPBS wants to make listeners part of the conversation, getting your suggestions for future programs. You can listen to the first episode about the power of friendship on kpbs.org or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And tune in tomorrow for an in-depth discussion on the good, the bad, and the scary of AI. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.